What's up, guys? This is Nick, aka Stewie Stag, coming at you for PokerVIP.com. Today I'm going to do a little bit of live commentating because I haven't done that for a while. I'm playing over here on 888 Poker, and one of the things I've been noticing a lot in the forums recently is how to play draws, how aggressively should we be playing draws, when we should be barreling, pretty much a real aggression factor, and I'm going to hope to cover that. In some of this, I'm going to look at some spots where barreling's better, spots where slowing down is better. And yeah, I hope you enjoy it. I hope you gain something from it. We can see. So first of all, we're going to be looking to play aggressive from the outset. So just Jack King off, I think, is either a free bet or a fold. I don't really like calling. I think free betting is fine, so we're just going to get that in just before we time out. Boom. Ace free, I don't really like calling. When this guy leads here and we get a call, I don't really like raising because we're never we could get it in as a favourite, but we're going to lose action. We have got the backdoor club draw as well. Raising would be fine. So it'll be interesting to see what Mackie does here. Now when it's checked to us, I would imagine we quite probably have the best hand here, unless Gillespie N is slow playing the nuts. So we could go for value here. I don't really want to get check raised, but I think that putting out a bet of some sort is fine. We're going to get a street of value when we make our draw on the river. We're going to get calls. We're not looking to go for free streets. And if a player has the king of clubs in their hand, the queen of clubs in their hand, they might call here, but they're not going to call the river. So I think betting is probably better on this turn. And unless something amazing comes off on the river, I think we're probably just going to check behind. I'm not really going to be looking for a ton of value, but we shall see. Because that was also another thing I noticed. I did mention on one person's post that they didn't really have a plan when they made a play. So we want to make sure when we do make a play that we know what we're doing on future streets, and that's if it's heads up or freeway to the river. This king queen here, once it's being min raised on the button, and then free bet, we're gonna. I think calling's fine. I think free betting, 4 betting's also fine. The queen is the sort of card where we could now go for value. I think villain here could just have a weak ace. Actually, I think I'm just going to put it in here. If we're a freeway, I wouldn't bet, but seeing as we are heads up, I think betting here is fine. He's going to call us with all of these aces that we beat, ace 10, ace 9, and a king as well, by the looks of things. So that's a good spot to go for value in, clearly by the river. This spot here, we haven't really got anyone who's squeezing behind us, so I think it's best just to free bet ourselves. This spot with ace 9, I don't really want to call, I want to take the lead, so I'm just going to free bet. And we're going to get off this table because although I do like playing heads up and freeway, I don't really like mixing the two all that often. So yeah, table 4 down here, we flop middle pair, and because it's a wet ball, we are going to lead pretty big. We do this with the top of our range. On this board, we flop a backdoor and 2 overcards. I think it's fine to lead, especially after the free bet. Again, with this ace 7, on this turn 10, I think checking back's fine. I think we can go for another street just to get him to call with his draws poorly. When this tight guy calls, I think we are going to we could check now to induce, or just go for another street. I think we'll go for another street. He could be floating a lot, and we don't really want to be in a spot where we want to check raise on the turn like this. So I'd rather just bet ourselves. And when the nitty guy raises, it's pretty clear just to let it go. Check folding wouldn't be awful on the turn there, but I don't really like doing it with top pair in that kind of situation. This board here, this 9-8, it was limp pot, so no one really has the initiative. So we're going to take the initiative with our pretty nutty looking hand there, and we take it down. This 9-jack here, we flop a couple of backdoors. We open pre-flop, so we're just going to c-bet it. I do apologise if I'm a little bit rushed. I haven't played 6 tables all that often recently, so I might be a little bit disjointed in some of the things I'm saying, but hopefully if there is a hand that is very important or a big discussion point, you can comment it on the comment on it, and we can have a look at it in more depth. This 10 jack, I don't think there's much point c-betting. We don't have any fold equity against this guy. We turn a flush draw, but I think he's going to call us with a lot of kings, a lot of queens. So I think betting here is fine, as long as we bet river as well. And I think he's going to fold to both. I think possibly. So we're going to bet with the intention of just barreling a blank river as well. And when we make two pair on the river, I think that now going for value, I think it's got to be on the really thin side, so we're only going to make it $1. Hopefully he calls us with like an 8-9 kind of hand, which is entirely possible. This is the where we get check raise sometimes. I don't really know what kind of hands he's repping here. I think calling's fine. I'm getting almost 4-1. And he's gonna have a lot more a lot stronger hands in his range, but we really getting too good odds to fold there. When the queen pairs on the turn, this is a really bad barreling card for us. So when we do so, a thinking player should notice this, and should either take our hands now as a bluff or as a pretty strong hand. And the river bricks, and I'm actually going to go for a pretty big bet just to make it look bluffy. So he calls us with some. Maybe some ace highs, maybe some pocket pairs, and he does indeed call us down with a pair of sevens there. It's annoying that our tables are breaking, although it's obviously a good sign that the rigs don't want to play against me. If you yourself want a pretty sweet deal, we've got them all over the place. 888 is where I like to play because there's a lot of fish. We've got some sweet deals on the iPoker system, some really good deals on the microgaming, staking. So come check all of those deals out. This table I think we'll leave as well. Everybody's leaving me. But yeah, head over to pokervip.com to see some pretty sweet deals. Get you sorted out on some pretty sweet sites. And see if I can find some better tables. There was a hand earlier on I really wish I had the recording going for, because it was a great example of how to play a draw very aggressively and how we ended up in a very strong position. This player I've marked as a good player, a shark. I think free betting is fine though here. This guy, it's not the same sort of situation because he's a far worse player, playing 55-39, doesn't fold to free bets. This guy's a much more thinking player. He realizes he's out of position. He realizes there's not a lot of good stuff going for him in the hand, so it's best just for him to fold. Whereas this guy seems to be spewing around a little bit, so probably isn't going to be thinking all that much. And he has indeed left. And that's a great thing when you see someone leave who you're playing back against. It's a great feeling. I'm not advertising that you go around spewing ships off to get people to leave you, but you know. There we go, that's better. It's a bit neater. One thing you can do in big blinds here with this ace-7 suited is ISO raise. Considering we're at a position with a hand that has to connect with quite a few specific flops, I don't really think there's any point to. We are quite possibly ahead at this point, but we're going to find ourselves in a lot of difficult positions. I'd rather play this kind of hand out of position in a small pot, and if we smash it, we can then build a pot anyway. We raise pre-flop here with the ace-10. We got called. This guy isn't really folding much. We don't really have much equity. We have a backdoor, but it's not that much. The king's a good card to barrel on. He can call with some draws, but I think the majority of his hands probably should fold here. We can certainly rep a king a lot easier than him. And when he comes back over the top, it's a pretty clear fold. I wouldn't be surprised if he's just bluffing at it there. This ace-6 hand here, we see bet and got called. The board gets even wetter. We do have the ace of hearts blocker, so I think he's more or less be on a club draw. So I think I'm just going to barrel again, go for value from clubs. And on a river like this, I'm not sure what hand's going to call us. So going for thin value is an option. However, I think checking and let him bluff would also be a fine option. Doesn't seem that aggressive, so I don't think that's all that likely. But there you go. It's a good spot because if we bet, he's going to call with his aces, he's going to raise his kings, but he might also raise some flush draws. So calling a raise, although wouldn't be bad for us because he has got some flush draws that he's going to bluff in his range, it's not going to be great. Whereas if we check, he's going to bet everything, but we're going to be in a little bit of an easier spot there. Sand here, ace 10, we've got the gut shot, 2 overcards and a backdoor flush draw. Backdoor straight flush draw. So I like a lead here. I want to go on the slightly bigger side because it's a wet board. This 10-8, calling or folding is fine. Plays pretty good, so we're just going to call. And when he check raises, I'm not too surprised. It's the sort of board that you expect some check raises on. When he checks to us, and it's on a pretty wet board, I'm going to go for some value here with top pair. Checking back's okay. It kind of reduces the chance of getting check raised, or it eliminates the chance of being check raised. But all the same, we don't want a jack or a 9 to come on the turn. When this guy bets into us, I'm obviously not folding a flop jack high flush draw. And even though the board does pair, I don't think it really makes a difference. He's got ace-6 in his range and maybe pocket three's only hand, so I'm definitely stacking up against that. He's going to have some worse flush draws. He's just going to shove a lot of the time as well. Queen Jack, isolating is fine. We are out of position, similar sort of spot I was in with a7 down here, so checking is probably better. With the lead, this is a really good board to see bet on, but here I don't think it is so much. You can do, but I don't think there's much point to it. We have a couple of backdoors, but I think it's just a little bit too little equity to begin following there. Calling is going to be fine, but I really want to be, again, spots where I can be aggressive rather than just check call, check call, check call. On this kind of board, it doesn't really hit any of his range, so we're just going to not really donk into him because he limped. And I think if we continue, he's just going to fold a lot of the time. When he doesn't, it gets super connected and we just shut down by the river. And he also had an ace. We might be able to get him to fold an ace by the river, but I think there's too many hands that connect with that turn and river that it would be a little bit too much to hope that he's going to shut down his entire range there, or he's not going to ever shut down his entire range. But I think c-betting this board is fine. When we turn a flush draw, I think we're just going to continue. Gets him to fold his 10x hands that we obviously lose to. We have equity with the flush draw. It's going to force him to play his hand pretty face up. And we can also just barrel the river as well. Let's go 4 bets. I think that if we were in position, even calling here wouldn't be too bad. His 4-bet range is a lot wider than most. And I have 3-bet him previously quite a few times. He is one of the few decent players on here. This board we don't really connect with. His ball range kind of smashes it, so I think it's best just to check it down. We could lead, but I don't think we're going to gain all that much from it. Tens here, I think it's just the value 3-bet. If he 4-bets, I'm probably going to get it in. It's a pretty good board for us. I think that there are going to be some pocket pairs in his range, some sort of like ace jack, ace 10 kind of hands as well. really were betting there to kind of protect against flush draws. Seeing as this guy has appeared to be fairly fishy so far, playing at 90-30, I'm going to go for a relatively big bet here. Just because I think we're going to get called by a lot of his range. He's going to have a fairly, on this kind of board here, he's going to have a very static range. It's not a case of if we bet half pot, he's going to call, but a full pot bet, he wouldn't. It's just his range isn't like that on that kind of board. Due to the board being very dry down here, I think it's fine just to go for a half pot, half pot. We could even check here and induce a bluff on the river, but I don't really like that. And this is interesting now that he's clicked it back. And we have the nuts. So just going to give it a little bit of time, and in 3, 2, 1, ship it. Snap me off with ace queen, bro. Come on. That spot there, you could go for a slightly smaller bet, but I think he's just going to call with a lot of his hands. The fact that he check call, check raise is a very, very strong line. I think it's a good spot to free bet after the ISO raise. And he does indeed fold. A lot of people as well, you will find at these stakes on 888, on this specific site, on others, it's not quite the same because it's a little bit reggier, it's a little bit more aggressive. People just do not play back at you when you free bet. It's something that you can do. I would do a little bit more freely than I would do on other sites. But saying that, you don't want to begin just free betting trash. You want to be free betting. The majority of your range should be strong. Ace-X sort of hands. But it's pretty easy. People play pretty face up. So this is an example here. We flop the backdoor nut flush draw and second pair. He check calls and checks pretty quickly. Generally, it's a little thing. If people make a really quick play, they generally have a draw. And he kind of did. I'm not really sure what that was. But generally, if people make a very quick play, they tend to have a type of draw, and it's something that I've picked up. Someone mentioned it to me, and I've picked it up as I played. I've kind of seen it happen more and more. So if someone makes a quick play, they generally know what they're going to do because they see the board and they have a draw. I think calling here is fine. I'm just going to stack off if I make top pair, if he lets me to, that is. Squeezing here would be fine in other spots, but the fact that it's under the gun and mid position, I don't really like squeezing there. I think we have the best hand a lot here, although he has shown his tendencies to check raise. I'm never folding to a bet here. I wouldn't be surprised if he makes it pot, maybe even bigger. And probably nice value, bro. I'm not really enjoying this table. I think I'm going to find a better one. ISO raising with the ace-10 is obviously a lot better than anything else there. Here we flop a backdoor and an overcard on a very dry board that doesn't really hit his range. So we see bet. So we get donked into after we ISO raised on a very wet board with only second pair. I think calling's fine, except for it just looks so strong that I think that even when we are ahead, we're not going to be ahead that much. We can't withstand much pressure. So I prefer a fold than a call. He could be doing he's going to be doing over a lot of kings. There's going to be a lot better spots for us to exploit him than that one there. And this guy donks. He's playing pretty face up so far. I don't think there's any need to. These are the kind of spots you don't normally get. I think that calling's fine. We have the nut overcard. If he's doing this with a draw, we now turn a bit of showdown equity. When he bets big, I'm just going to say, okay, nice hand, bro. Do you have a jack? Sixes against this guy. Calling on the button is fine. I don't really like free betting small pocket pairs. We have no blockers or anything like that. This is going to be interesting to see what his under the gun range is like. Yeah, in general, my free bet range will consist of a lot of value hands, and my bluffs will consist of suited aces, some king 10 suited maybe, but not even those sort of hands. Ace 4 normally would raise, but with two active players behind me in the blinds, I don't think it's going to be that profitable. Which is another thing I think a lot of people don't really do. They don't adjust. If they see a hand, they're like, oh, I'm gonna have to go for a bet there. You don't really have to if it's not going to be profitable. With 7-9, I'm making a bet for value here with second pair. He's going to have a lot of draws that can call me. A 10's going to call me. Jack's going to call me. Flush draws. All of those hands. So we're getting called by worse hands. We can go for 2 streets and then shut down on the river. It's A7. Same as down here, really. We don't really want to be playing a weak hand out position. Some of my folds might be a tiny little bit nitty, but I tend to dislike check calling in too many spots, unless I'm slow playing or they just give me such good odds that I have to call. I much prefer to check raise, take the lead, take the initiative. So if there's a spot where I don't think I have enough equity to check raise, I'll just check fold. This is a pretty good board to barrel on. There's not many 9s in his range. He's going to have some pocket pairs which are going to call. He's also going to have some flush draws, some ace highs that are going to call. So again, there I go for 2 streets and see how it runs out. It's 8-7. I min raise purely because there's a fish in the blinds. He's not going to fold that often, so I'd rather see a cheap flop. It's a pretty scary flop for a small pocket pair. Suited connectors, so I'm expecting him to fold a lot of time. When he doesn't, we can give up. He could have hand like 9-10 as well, but I think it's pretty easy just to see bet. If if that type of player continues, then he has a piece. One thing I really have noticed on 888 compared to the iPoker Network, PokerStars, is that the regs tend not to fight back at you. If you pick a fight with one of them, they kind of give in pretty easily. These 10s here, if we free bet, we're going to have to call off this guy or this guy. But I don't really want to take a multi-way. I think it's fine to call or to free bet. If we free bet, we're stacking off, like I said, with these two. So let's free bet. I don't think you need to go huge because these guys are so short. I think we'll call this ace king against 10s. Flip it up. Oh, gotta fade a queen. Boom. It's a spot where, to be honest, we probably would have got more value by calling, but we can't be results orientated. You saw the fold equity. We had the initial raiser folded. If that folds round, we pick up $2 by risking 280. So we're getting insane odds. It needs to work like 30% of the time there, I think, roughly, to be profitable. It's a very wet board. It does hit his range, so I think that we'd have to be very aggressive in this 6 king hand. We pick up no equity, so I don't see any point in betting there. We pick up a gut shot. The queen also hits our range heavier than it hits his. We could raise here. In fact, I think I will raise because we have equity in the hand with our gut shot. We could be representing a slow played hand. I think that he's just betting here a lot of the time as a stab. This king queen, and he does indeed fold. That's a really good example of when to lead with equity. This king queen hand, I think that considering it's a pretty bad player, we're just going to go for a half pot, and yeah, Pretty much these bad players, even if they're stationary, tend to play their hands very face up, so you can always go for one semi bluff. I mean, I've got two overcards. If I hit a king or a queen, I'm not slowing down. If I hit a jack, I can also barrel again or check behind, depending on well, it doesn't really depend on anything because it's the same player. If a jack came on the turn there, I probably would barrel again around half pot just to build a pot for when I smash the river. And on a blank turn, I think I would probably shut down. I'm not folding here with an overpair. Even if he shoves here, I'm calling. It's kind of unfortunate, but I don't really think we can fold if we get given the odds we do. Hopefully he just calls with ace queen, and you know, it doesn't really matter. Shoving the turn would also be an option there, but it doesn't make a huge difference really. Check folding there would be awful, so maybe we could check to induce. We're not going to induce bluffs, but we might get deuce of diamonds to check behind, whereas they're always calling, so that'd be the only thing. That, as I'm not check folding, I'm probably going to bet. His queen x hands aren't going to bet, but they might call. So, and we might even get him to fold the very bottom of his diamond range. If he has deuces, for example, he might find a fold. Probably not, but there's always a chance. I think I'm going to play a couple more orbits on each table and then finish off because I don't want to get this video to make this video too long. I might quickly pull up my hand history and look and see if I can find some interesting spots. There were a couple of hands before I started recording where there was some pretty nice hands that played out really well for me. One spot I got it in with a draw against another player's draw. So I'll probably find that one, show it off to you guys. This is a really good spot to free bet in general, so I don't see any reason why not to here. Calling is fine. I think at higher stakes I prefer to call. 50NL, calling there is a lot better because you're going to get squeezed a lot often, you can back raise, it's more profitable, but for this kind of spot it's not. This board 10 queen 7, I think that it's very unlikely that it doesn't hit his board, it doesn't hit his hands, and that's why he does lead. Let's see. Obviously, I'm not 4-bet folding ace queen suited, ace king suited here. If he has aces or kings, then oh well. And if he has queens or jacks, we're flipping it up. And if he has a bluff, we're going to take it down. Yeah, when he calls our free bet and then leads on that kind of board, the only kind of hand that really we're in trouble against. We're really in trouble against. Sorry, the only types of hands that we're ahead of are kind of ace jacks, which have worse gut shots, but I don't really think he plays them that way. Maybe probably quite a decent way, but it smashes our range, and our overcards aren't going to fold. I think he may have put us on aces kings and was trying to get full value with pocket tens whilst also protecting against draws. That's very plausible. You could also have ace queen. So there's a lot of hands in his range which are crushing us. And playing back against them is just not going to be a good idea. Some people would argue and say that you should be raising. Well, I don't think anyone would, but a few people might think that raising there's better. We have equity, we've raised before, so why not there? This is a spot where some people tend to free bet. I don't really like free betting. I hate calling, so I think it's best to fold. Heads up, this is a really good board to c-bet for these sort of stakes because people play their hands, like I said, very face up. So it's pretty easy. They just fold when they don't have a spade. But freeway, I don't see any point in trying to barrel someone off of a pair or a spade. Deuces here is fine to call. Like I said before, I don't like free betting here. We have no blockers. We're in trouble unless we hit our draw. This is a good ball for us. It misses our opponent's range. We've got equity in the draw. I was going to do that. See if we can pull up some of those hands for. Okay, so when we get free bet by this guy, he's playing 40-40. It's kind of a weird one because generally if someone free bets from the cutoff facing mid position open, they're going to be relatively strong. I don't really want to play king queen out of position, so but don't really want to 4-bet fold either. So I think folding might be the better option there. It's pretty nitty, I know, but like I've said before, it's not a spot where we can take an aggressive play. So it's better just to give it up. This spot here, we can represent a queen. We've got an overcard in the back door. It's a very dry board that doesn't smash his range. We turn some more equity, so we continue. And when we flop river top pair, I think we can go for value again. Hopefully he just calls with a queen here. And if he raises, it's going to be a pretty easy fold. Come on, come on, come on. And okay, so that's a great example of we can barrel. That's actually, that there sums up exactly what I wanted to show in this. So I don't really even need to cover the other hand. I will, because it was a fantastic hand. But that hand there, if I just pull up, the hands, I can show you some of the bigger ones. Just give me 2 seconds. Okay. Okay, let's hide his cards. Let's pretend we didn't see that. Okay. So we're going to play this as if we didn't see the cards. So we have here pocket eights, which is, and this is going to be a really interesting hand. We don't really have many stats on this player at this point in the hand. We only had about 6 or 7 hands on him as well, so we've pretty much played it in a vacuum, which is always fun to look at. We make a standard open. We get raised here, and when this guy raises to this amount, we're getting really good odds on a call. Stack to odds on his stack here. Wins call 80 to win about 20, 80 cent to win about 20. So we're getting, you know, 25 to 1, something like that. It's a huge proportion. So it's a very comfortable call. If we flop a set, we can rip it in against some of his hands. The flop comes 9-7-10, which is a really good flop for us. He leads, and we elect to make the check raise. Now, this is a spot where I like check raising because it does a few things. And if we quickly get something else up, that isn't actually what I want to do, but there you go. If we pull up this little thing, this is my version of Poker Stove, because my Poker Stove didn't work. If we give him a free bet range of maybe something like this, it might be a little bit wider, but if we gave him something around that, for example, when we check raise, he is going to fold so many of these hands. He's going to fold pocket king, king queen here, ace queen, ace king, probably maybe ace jack, most likely ace jack, king jack he would probably call off, king queen's going to fold ace jack. All of a sudden we're left with this as his range, really, which is 50% of his range. So we risk $5 to win $5, but it's going to be successful about 50% of the time. Only needs to be successful 1 in 3. Even if we're drawing dead here when he calls, which we're not, which is great. Betting 5 to win 5 needs to be successful half of the time. Is it half the time? I'm really bad on these odds. I've got really lazy with them. Either way, because we've got a load of equity here, this forces our opponents to make a bad play. If we get it in here as well against his shoving range, which is probably going to consist of this, we're still going to have against this range 32%. So we're going to get caught 50% of the time. We're going to get it in as a 32% favorite because I'm not folding once I put this much in, and 50% of the time he folds. So 50% of the time we gain the $5, and 50% of the time we win 32% of $40. So overall, it's going to be a plus EV play. Move this over here. He then raises and we ship it. And this is a great example of when somebody when we do this, expecting them to show up with a set or overpair, and they actually show Jack Queen, and we actually get it in as a favorite. So this is a dream situation for us. We've got it in against the bottom of his range. We're getting half of his range to fold, and the top of his range we're still getting in with a decent amount of equity. And it runs out good for us, which is always nice. See if I can find another quick hand. I don't want to just put up a load of brag hands. I'm going to talk through actually, because this hand I didn't really discuss a huge amount while I was playing this ace jack hand. Again, let's get rid of that. So we raise with ace jack. This is a hand that you'll know because this player does donk, but whatever. We get called in 2 spots, and this player donks for the pot. This guy calls, and when we look at these guys' ranges, we've got to put them on some. We kind of begin looking at the hand. We're pretty much with ranges with this guy can have pretty much anything. He can have ace x. He can even have some kings. This guy can have some flush draws, some aces, some pocket pairs, some backdoors. So overall with that, we're in really good shape. The turn is the deuce of clubs. We get checked. And because Gillespie has less flush draws in his range than Makai, because he's betting to protect often, we can now play it pretty easily. Go for value against Gillespie. We've also got the flush draw, so even if he does have ace queen, ace king, we pick up, if he has ace queen or ace king, we pick up 9 flush draw outs. So betting here is fine. We don't want to scare these out of the pot. We never fold into a shove from Gillespie, obviously. But it also makes Makai's hand play a lot more face up, because he's now going to have to show his strength. If he calls again, we're probably checking down the river if we get a choice to. If he raises, it's probably going to be a really tough call, because it was then going to be purely based on pot odds. I think I'll probably fold, regretfully, because I just wouldn't have the odds to call. But when he folds, this now means that we can go for value against Gillespie, and he only has king queen, ace king, and ace queen hands that beat us, and some turn flushes that he's slow playing. When he doesn't bet, however, I don't really think he has any of these hands. I think ace king would probably lead on the turn, or free bet, as he does free bet a decent amount, or over a small sample he has free bet. Ace queen, I think he would bet this river. A flush, I think he would bet this river or the turn. So I think here his range is consisting of some king x with the king of clubs, or king 10 with the 10 of clubs, something like that, and some ace 10 kind of hands. So I think value betting is really good, and he does call us down with a pretty weak holding. So we'll give him a fishy mark. Quickly see any other spots where we what happens here. Okay, we'll have a look at this one really quickly, because these are the kind of flops you want to see bet on, and then I'm going to end it there, I think, unless I can quickly find another really good hand. Give me 2 secs if I can quickly find a good hand. I don't think I'm going to though. Okay, we'll just look at this hand finally. Ace 8, we raise on the button. We get free bet by a guy which at this point we haven't played any hands against. He's seen us open a fair amount though. We have an ace blocker. So I think that calling here is really bad, considering he's just sat down. I want to put pressure on him straight away. Folding is fine, but 4-betting is also fine. We make it just under 3 times. And when he calls, we can straight away begin to mark him as a poor player to call a 4-bet out of position. Even the top of his range should be 5-betting here. I don't think there's any reason to call with aces and slow play out of position. I really hate that. And then this is the kind of flop where people kind of go, oh, do I c-bet, do I not? We flop second pair heads up in a 4-bet pot, which is not always going to be good, but when we give him a range of ace-king, ace-queen, he probably doesn't have aces or kings. He could have jacks or tens, but they're the only kind of hands. So we flop a pair, and against ace-king, ace-queen, we're now a heavy favourite. So checking would be okay to induce blush from those hands, but we also have this backdoor equity. We can get him to fold a hand like pocket nines, I think, here. So I think betting is a lot better. I would probably check a dry turn and bet a flush card or an 8 or an ace. But yeah, it's a really good board for us to see bet with backdoor flush draw, second pair, and an overcard. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that little session. It was a pretty successful one for me. But yeah, like I said, some of the hands I did kind of brush over. I didn't really comment on them fully. So if there are any spots where you question one of my plays, you might say they're really bad. You might say it's great, but you could do this as well. Whatever, I don't really mind. Criticize me. I haven't played for. I've only played about 10,000 hands after getting back off of a month's break. So don't rip into me. But it'd be great to have some discussions on there. And yeah, this has been Nick, aka Stewie Stag for PokerVIP.com. And I hope this has helped you guys get out there and get stacking.